Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this time space continuum. I am Susan, aka Astro Lunachick, and you have found me. I am here on Astro Lunachick's Guide to the Universe. It is December 12th, a Tuesday. I am I have to apologize to everyone. I normally get my show out on Sundays, and I've been pretty good about it. Been doing it every Sunday, but I decided to switch things up a little bit this Sunday and ended up running into some pre-Mercury retrograde snafus. So it happens, but that's okay. And as you might know, I normally do the show live, but I've decided to pre-record it, and probably going forward I will pre-record the Sunday shows. And my game plan is to stay with the Sunday shows, put out the weekly astrology on Sunday so everyone kind of knows what's up for the week, and then do some live shows here and there. And when I get it figured out, I'll be taking calls. I still haven't still haven't worked that out yet. I just don't have the time or the brain wave function right now to just sit down and figure it out. So if anybody listening is pretty good with computer programs, and I think what I need is a virtual audio mixer, I'm not sure, but I have a Mac, so maybe that makes a difference. You know, of course, I can sit down and figure it out for myself. Um, but I can't. It's just not in my brainwidth lately. So I've got other things that I'm working on that I need to focus on, and it just never seems to hit the top of my list. So anyway, yes, if there's anyone out there that has any suggestions as to audio mixing programs that I can use for this here podcast, if you love me, you'll help me. Thanks. Public service announcement. Okay, so as you all might know, we have a retrograde coming of the Mercury kind this week. It's not retrograde yet, but boy, it has felt like it. If you if you've noticed, for the last couple of weeks, things have seemed kind of wonky, but that's because Mercury is out of bounds. And I talked about this on a recent podcast interview that I did with Dave Cruz with Beyond the Strange. Go check him out. YouTube. He's on Spreaker. I don't think he's on Twitch anymore, but go look for him, YouTube, Spreaker, and you'll find my interview with Dave. I talked about the retrograde and the upcoming astrology for the rest of the month. Also, I did an interview with Nish of Cosmic Salon, so you can find that on Spotify. The first hour is on Spotify, and then I think the second hour, which had all the really good stuff, is for her subscribers. Sorry, guys. But you know what? If you want to know what I said on that show, you can listen here. It's shit that I always talk about. Oops. Not that I care about swearing, but I care about algorithms, and I don't want to do anything to apparently it affects your views and your availability, whatnot, if you swear. But that's just it's just a shitty thing, right? I just don't, I don't know. Whatever. I don't have a filter. It's going to slip past me. All right, what else is going on? If you are looking for me on social media, you know where you can find me: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I will not stop calling it Twitter. I just can't call it X. Sorry, I have an issue with X and X's. Not anymore. But that's where you can find me. Rumble, I heard Rumble's been having some issues. Some content creators have said that their accounts aren't working. And I don't know, I opened up the app the other day and couldn't get through at first, but then when I went to my subscription feed, I was able to watch videos of people I subscribe to, but apparently there's some issues with the content creators, and I think that's probably linked to the things that were foreshadowed that have been talked about for at least a month and a half, of oh well, the nanny state, things you're not allowed to talk about. So we all thought that Rumble was a good place to be when YouTube wasn't being so friendly, but I don't think so now. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes with all of that. Anyway, yes, I expect more interference with that. I think there's going to be probably a big to-do regarding the amount of control that our government has, and perhaps a return to trying to grab more of that control. Like part 2 of the plan that played out 2020 to 2022 or thereabouts. You know what I'm talking about. The same old shite. So with that said, let's get into the astrology. Did I mention everything that I wanted to? Oh, quick, I have a story, just a short one. I have someone that consults with me regularly regarding timing issues, picking times for different things. A lot of it is beauty treatments and paperwork stuff, important things. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for her for years, and she always takes my advice, except for this one time. Funny thing, all throughout November, she was just up my bum about getting some a minor beauty procedure done involving needles. And for December, and all through November, she's bugging me, lobbying me hard. Well, what about this day? Well, what about this? And pushing. And she doesn't usually do this, but I could tell she really wanted this procedure. And I kept saying, I don't like it, given your history also in the past with certain things involving needles and what I know about this particular procedure, sometimes, rarely, but you can have complications. And so seeing the aspects that I saw for December, I just kept saying to her, I don't like it. So finally, after 5 or 6 times of, what about this date? She says, okay, well, I think I'm gonna do it, and this is the day I'm gonna do it. So now she's decided, and it's not really up to me. So I said to her, all right, me, I go with worst case scenario and I work back from there. I don't think you're gonna die. Probably you're not gonna have paralysis or nerve damage. I just don't like it. And when I say I don't like it, it's just not good aspects. And let's look at what the possibilities could be. I mean, you might not like it. It might not turn out the way you want. There could be redness, swelling, irritation, more so than normal. And so, what's the worst? I said, think about the worst that could happen. And if you can live with that, then go for it. I'm not gonna, you're an adult. Make your choices. So she went ahead with the procedure. Now, mind you, Mercury is not retrograde yet, but it is stationed, and it has been stationed for the last week or so. So it is, close enough. And with all the other aspects too that I wasn't liking. So she comes back to me and she says, well, I got it done. And there was two things that she wanted to get done, but because she passed out, she fainted with the first part of the procedure. They couldn't go through with the second part. And the funny thing is, so it involved an area on her forehead. And she said not only did she pass out, but her third eye was reopened. And she had this weird out of body experience. She's very sensitive, very psychic. I had to laugh. I mean, that was not a side effect I was expecting. But the thing is, there were aspects to Uranus and just other aspects in her chart where I was just like, yeah, I mean, it just doesn't seem stable. And for her to fly out of her body like that, it made me laugh so hard. But I'm glad, there was no irreparable damages or anything really terrible about it, but it didn't turn out the way that she wanted. And she is very sensitive, so who knows? She could have fainted any other day. But I just thought it was very funny. Very, very funny. So that's my Mercury retrograde story. And now let's get into it. Okay, so today is December 12th, 2023. It's 4-day in numerology, and we have a very, very small waning moon, a very indistinguishable, invisible sliver of a Sagittarius moon. As I'm speaking to you today, the moon is about 16 degrees of Sagittarius. 4 degrees off of the new moon that is coming, and not a whole lot of energy left in the moon at this point in the phase. And I don't know about you guys, but past couple of days I've just been exhausted, super exhausted, and I always am at this point in the dark moon, just before the new moon. It's just been, I've been busy. That's what it is. I've been very, very busy in a good way. And I don't know why, just exhausted. Maybe there's a lot of mental stimulation, nervous energy in the air. But we're about to have a new moon in maybe about 8 hours from now, wherever you are. And just before the moon makes its conjunction with the sun, it does make an inconjunct to Uranus. So we could get some surprises or some, I don't know, last minute downloads, information, inspiration, a sudden second wind, maybe. Not the time to start things, though. It is right after the new moon that we have Mercury turning retrograde at 8 degrees Capricorn. Mercury's making a nice aspect to Jupiter in Taurus. So I feel like there is a lot of lucky energy with that, and definitely a good energy really to start planning things and getting some things worked out, and good ideas coming in with Jupiter. I would say that, it is not just a passing influence as Mercury moves very, very slowly backwards. We're going to have this aspect for the whole week, really, all week. And so even if we do have some Mercury snafus with the retrograde happening, I think there's a lot of protection with this Mercury trine to Jupiter. And Mercury retrograde is always an introspective time. So I think that it could really bolster our faith and, our just a belief in a positive outcome in all situations. So I see that as being pretty positive, and as is usually the case during the holiday season, no matter what religion people follow, there just always seems to be kind of a reverence and a reconnection with spiritual values, I guess. So I think that is very positive. So today, the 12th, here on Tuesday, the moon is really not carrying a whole lot of forward movement. It's more of a day to coast, get done what you already have in progress. Just take care of the things you need to take care of, not overexerting yourself, and taking time to rest. It's a very good time to take care of yourself. It does feel, though, that there is some confusion and, maybe uncertainty. That's possible because the new moon is a few degrees off of a square to Neptune, and that square will be building from the sun to Neptune, and that can bring a lack of clarity, maybe some doubts, but soul searching. I would call this a soul searching instrument. And we could see some things that we did not expect, because Neptune tends to obscure things, and the sun trying to bring the light, and it may cause some people some friction, but that's just probably because of perspective. I think it's more of a perspective thing. So tomorrow, or late, around midnight-ish, Tuesday into Wednesday, Mercury does go retrograde. So we start the lunar cycle off with a new moon as Mercury goes retrograde on the 13th, and that is a 5-day. 5s usually bring some change. So, like I was saying with the 12th is a 4-day. 4 tends to be pretty stable. So it's more of it's almost like a fixed energy, seeking stability. So just stay whatever course you're on and don't expect any kind of wild changes, unless that's specific to a chart. But tomorrow, the moon goes into Capricorn in the morning on the East Coast here of the United States. And, well, it's late morning, but morning on the West Coast. And that makes, the moon makes a sextile to Saturn. So that's a pretty stabilizing aspect. And the moon is in Capricorn, and that sign is ruled by Saturn. So probably right off the bat, right with on the heels of the new moon, it's like something we really want to get to work on. Now, mind you, we just went retrograde, so there could be some things that come up. Usually the day before, the day of, around the day after the Mercury station to go retrograde. That's when we usually see some stuff crop up. So pay attention to what it is, and that'll let you know with what you're probably going to be dealing with for the rest of the retrograde, or the theme of it. But sextile to Saturn, Capricorn's ruling planet, is definitely a sign to be cautious, to allow things to unfold in their time, and not expect that things are going to be easy peasy, because Saturn and Capricorn definitely indicates that we will encounter some kind of delays and obstacles, but it is all to teach us something, to make us stronger and wiser. That is so Saturn placing restriction on something, and it is a sextile. So it kind of feels like we already know, perhaps, or we have had a inkling of what's to come. You know, now that I'm just thinking about it, sorry to interrupt the flow, but my intention here, and the reason why I'm pre-recording this, is because I wanted to be able to share my screen. So I'm just not used to doing that. I have to flip over. Let me do that now. Let's see if I can see the chart. There we go. There it is. All right, so if you're looking at the screen, you can see I'm at the 13th moon in Capricorn, making a sextile to Saturn. Now, this feels very productive. It feels like we start off the new moon cycle with a real grounded focus of what we want to accomplish, what we want to get done. Okay, so the moon does make an opposition to Vesta, asteroid Vesta, which is down at the bottom of the chart, and that is in Cancer. So Vesta, the asteroid, represents home and hearth and family that gathers around home and hearth. Vesta, I do associate with groups, especially of women, that gather together for a common purpose. And even the word Vesta brings to mind vested interests, investing, things that we are devoted to. Devotion is another Vesta word. So there could be something that comes up around those things, and building something that is going to last, and something that is of integrity, and looking at taking responsibility and being accountable. These are all Capricorn, Saturn themes. So throughout the day, after this sextile to Saturn, the moon will make a trine to Jupiter, which will increase the focus on the Capricornian themes. And in addition, we could be looking at authority figures, government, and perhaps things of the legal nature when it comes to that trine to Jupiter. And Jupiter can also represent faith-based institutions, religion, and leaders of religious organizations. I heard the Pope was sick. I wonder if there's something coming with the Pope. All right, so, and then moving on towards the very end of the day, we have the moon conjuncting Mercury, which has just gone retrograde this day. So Mercury communications, I think we probably will get some news regarding all of the themes that I just mentioned with the Capricorn and Jupiterian themes. In regard to people who are in positions of authority, leaders, older people, and perhaps someone associated with the institution of religious or higher learning. So this could be colleges and universities. I think there is someone, I forget who she is, but they're calling for her to step down. I don't know what she is, a dean. She's on the board of directors, something she's associated with big, is it Harvard or something like that. I think we'll probably see some news about her, and if she's still holding out and trying to keep her position. I don't think she will. I think she'll be gone. This is what that looks like too, possibly. So there will be some news, and pay attention to, as I always say, on the day of the retrograde or thereabouts, pay attention to the news that you hear regarding your personal situation, and take note of where you're at, because this is an important week. And you'll know what it is that you're having to deal with that could possibly be delayed or just play out through this whole Mercury retrograde for you for the next few weeks into the end of December. Mercury goes direct on January 1st, so we start the year off with a bang, and then it takes about a week after that, maybe 2 weeks for things to settle out. So you will find out what your story is. But with Jupiter in there, Jupiter is going to go direct at the end of the month too. So this is a very important day. Since we're having the Mercury station to go retrograde, making an aspect all week to Jupiter, which will stay station to go direct, almost within days of Mercury stationing to go direct. So an important time. So pay attention. What else do we have going on? Okay, all right, so into the 14th, and that is Thursday. This is the 14th, yes, Thursday. It is a 6-day. Pay attention to the 3, 6, 9 days. The 3 was an 11, the 11th, so whatever was going on the 11th, we have another level of that building with the 6th day and 14th. So the sun is starting to make a trine to the north node, sextile to the south node, supporting us in the direction that we are going when it comes to our own personal independence, our beliefs, our goals, our relationships, and what we are looking at from a higher perspective in terms of the me versus the we. It's the north node in Aries and the south node in Libra. And the moon is in Capricorn. Again, it is making it's making a square to Chiron. So whatever the mood is, it's very sobering, and I wouldn't say dire, but maybe there is a sense of having to sacrifice something that maybe we personally want, but it is not a good time, or we perhaps know that there are other things that are taking precedence. It's kind of a need to make level-headed, mature decisions. Perhaps there is some issue with relationships and money, with the moon sextile to Venus, which is in Scorpio at 12 degrees. That can have to do with perhaps debt. It can have to do with, it could be issues of trust and jealousy coming in with relationships, but the moon in Capricorn would really want to be mature about that. And there could be also a sense of perhaps a pattern of transactionality to relationships. So, Capricorn is kind of a sign that really does look at everything as kind of a return on investment, and not in a bad way to say, well, what am I getting out of this? But it can be sort of really looking deep at the relationship and saying, well, what are my needs, and is this relationship going to last long term? And it is probably it's a good aspect, really, when you think about Capricorn having an eye towards the future, and Venus in Scorpio really looking beneath the surface, really digging deep to say, something about our values and what our relationship issues might be. If there's any trust issues, do we have issues when it comes to finances in a relationship, that kind of thing. So I don't know, Capricorn moon is pretty business-like and not very emotional about it. It's logical, it's practical. So it's not a bad day to look at things in regard to finances and relationships. And let's see, the moon is also going to make a trine to, well, the square to Chiron. I mean, there might be a little bit of hurt feelings or feeling like maybe we're doing more than the person. Um, it can also be a little bit of like dissatisfaction as to what we have achieved thus far, and a little bit of insecurity and maybe wounded ego with that kind of Aries thing. And then we get a trine to Jupiter. I'm sorry. We had the trine to Jupiter, trine to Uranus. So, that is probably a way to perhaps transmute some of those feelings, or have really a desire to change, and maybe some way of looking at things that could just change perspective. This is a waxing moon, so we're building, and Capricorn likes to build, and it is for the long term. And a Capricorn moon is going to put aside its own personal issues, the emotional part of it, and do what's practical. And Uranus is helping us to break free of the stuck patterns and attachments in Taurus. So I think this is it's a positive change. Whenever I see aspects to Uranus, it is amplified energy that just comes through and changes things and shifts things in an instant. It's like zap and boom. It's very inspiring. I like Uranus and Uranus aspects. So it's, and this is a trine, so it's just happening, it's flowing. You might not see it coming, but it just kind of fits and works. So I do see this as positive, even if it's just on the internal level, where we're looking, not looking back. Yes, looking at the past, because that is Capricorn and that is the moon, but maybe seeing how the future is unfolding, and it is not like the past. And that is very positive. So this could be part of what was seated at the new moon, because the new moon had an inconjunct to Uranus, right? So we could have had some kind of obstacle, blockage, emotional issue, something that was stuck suddenly coming unstuck, because perhaps we had a lack of faith that there were, the things could change. But suddenly we have to kind of adjust for that new perspective, because something happened that just in an instant shifts our perspective. And now we're seeing by the 14th that, wow, things really are changing, and some big things are happening. Overall, not a bad thing. I like it. Going into the 15th, but overnight, we're going to have the moon square the nodes, and planets squaring the nodes are always good shift points. It's just the moon, so it only lasts a little while, but there is a sense of turning a corner and positive developments, things progressing. The sun is making the sextile and the trine to the nodes. That is pivotal. And the moon makes the square to the nodes, so there is an emotional shift. And then early in the day, the moon conjuncts Pluto. Now that's heavy. But it's very powerful. I mean, we are either facing our fears, or it can be heavy. Moon Pluto aspects can feel quite heavy. So it could be this sense of this impending change that is developing pretty much right away with this new moon. So this is the 15th. And then for most of the day, the moon will be in Aquarius. And it really doesn't make any aspects until the square to Jupiter in Taurus, at which point we will probably be looking at some kind of change, again, with the things that I was talking about before on the day of the Mercury station, where we hear some kind of news with the Mercury stationing Mercury to go retrograde with the moon on the 13th, making the trine to Jupiter. So whatever happens on the 13th, we get more information than on the 15th. And squares, they are a frictional aspect, but moon in Aquarius is very detached, but it also is the sign of the collective Aquarius. So it is something, and also the moon also indicates the public, the collective, right? So there is some kind of change that is coming. We get an idea perhaps of it on Wednesday, and then on Friday the 15th, and that's a 7-day. We get some kind of news coming about, it will either have to do with groups of people. We know what groups of people have been doing when they gather lately. I don't know if that word is on the verboten list, so I'll leave you to figure it out. But the moon square to Jupiter could involve legal issues, religious institutions and leaders, foreign leaders, foreign travel also. I think that we need to add that to the Jupiter list, because Jupiter does rule the airlines, and so does Aquarius. So maybe something with air travel or airlines, foreign people, foreign lands. I would also look at news media with Jupiter, and overall something big, because Jupiter always sort of exacerbates or expands the situation, makes it bigger, makes it worldwide. But we are also talking about Taurus, which is an earth sign, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, so it can be laws, it can be financial, earth related, earthquakes. You know, I did fail to mention, but now I'll bring it up, that Mercury retrograde, when it stations, and considering that we are dealing with Jupiter in an earth sign, we could be seeing earthquakes, volcanoes, maybe even tsunamis, because the sun is making a square to Neptune in Pisces. Pisces and Neptune both indicate the sea, and we will have to see what's going on with that. So yeah, the moon will make that square to Jupiter. We'll see what is going on. But I always feel also, when I see things happening like earthquakes or volcanoes, huge weather events, there's always something emotional building in the collective, the unconscious, and then we have an event, right? Because it's the pressure building. And so the two are connected. I feel like it's kind of a sense of something building, something big going to happen, and then pop like a pimple. This could be the day that it pops. I don't know. It could be the 15th, right? Because the moon is conjunct Pluto, and then it squares Jupiter. We'll see what happens. And the sun squaring Neptune. Lack of clarity, confusion, events affecting the population and large groups of people. That would be Aquarius and the moon. Okay, so the 16th, that is the 8. Now remember how I'm looking at this with the energy building with the numerology. The 6th day was Thursday the 14th. So 15th is the Friday. 16th is Saturday. That's the 7. And the 16th, we have the sun exactly square to Neptune. The moon is on its way to squaring Uranus. Sudden shift and change and big events happening. I have been looking at Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus, which are both retrograde. Earth changes or events, natural disasters, but also financial, unexpected, possibly something, probably something going on with that. And legal lawsuits, the justice system, of government. Pay attention to what's going on. Now, the moon does square Venus here. So there is something going on in relationships and also with finances, perhaps, because Venus opposing Jupiter and then Venus opposing Uranus by the end of the week, there could be some big shifts and changes and some kind of a surprise when it comes to personal relationships changing and financial situations. I would say pay close attention to this day on the 16th. If there's any issues in your personal life, be aware that there is probably a potential for hacking and scams. I always see that with Mercury retrograde. And I have noticed actually that I have had more bots and sock puppet accounts following me on Twitter than I ever have. Like almost every other day, I'm getting somebody following me that is, recently created account, just obviously not like a real person. So, and weird like scammy texts and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of that. And we've only been in the shadow period of, before the Mercury retrograde, but Mercury has been out of bounds. So the declination has been, as I've explained in the past, it is out of the normal range of declination for planets. So when it goes out of bounds, it acts almost like a retrograde. So while I think now by this time, let me just check, Mercury is now within bounds. Yes. So on the 15th into the 16th, Mercury comes back within bounds. So all the flood of information and stuff that we couldn't even keep up with, and weird things that we were hearing, and just a tremendous amount of mental activity and exchange of information, things we never thought we'd hear and things we thought we would never say. During that time, it sort of normalizes, but by the 16th, not quite yet, but the 17th into the 18th, Mars goes out of bounds. So this is what I'm talking about over here. So out of bounds is usually, it's about 23.5 degrees. This is southern declination, which means the planet is low on the horizon. Southern declination, I usually look at as being or coming from the internal, maybe even directed internally, but also tending towards the past. That's just the way I look at it. I really don't know how other astrologers look at declination. I'm just telling you what I've observed. But because the moon does it twice a month, like once a month, it is in its maximum north declination, and then about 2 weeks later, it's in its maximum southern declination. So it tends to be, easier to track. Anyway, but Mercury out of bounds has been relating to our communications, anything having to do, with the mental realm. Now we're dealing with Mars after the 18th. And Mars is anger, aggression, assertiveness, masculinity, speed, metal objects. So we're talking about war, weapons of war, things that can cause conflict and pain. Not always bad. I think we might see some pretty outrageous, heroic acts of bravery and big, huge balls. Masculinity, hyper masculinity, I'm going to say, with Mars out of balance. So it's a very yang type of energy that we're going into during the Mercury retrograde. So, hold on to your seatbelts. All right, so going back to the 16th, Saturday the 16th. So as Mercury goes retrograde, maybe it lets off the gas pedal in terms of the flow of information. Time seems to slow down. Capricorn, being a Saturn ruled sign has to do with time, long periods of time. But have you ever heard or have you ever felt or thought, gee, time seems to be just going so slow? I would say that this would be the Mercury retrograde where things probably seem to be going slow. At this point in the retrograde, Mercury kind of stops and it just doesn't move off of this degree here, or it doesn't go too fast. And it seems to be rewinding. And that's what Mercury retrograde does for us. And it's almost like rewind, to the past. Capricorn has a lot to do with the past. It's very karmic sign. So the awareness of our past, where we've been, what we've come from, and how we're all collectively connected, really, with the moon in Aquarius here. We are thinking about groups of people and their values and their psychology, and the psychology of those who hold certain values. I would say values because it's Venus. And also because for the past week, we have been looking at that ever since Venus opposed Jupiter, and Jupiter has to do with beliefs and ideologies. So we are kind of dealing with that at large as a society, locally and globally. But on the 16th, with the moon in Aquarius, it definitely feels like there is action coming. Mars is making a sextile to the moon, or vice versa. And I think we're gaining some kind of momentum here and courage, taking a risk, and really wanting to be free, breaking free. Again, we're going to have the moon squaring to Uranus in the sign of Aquarius, the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus. Be aware that this could bring issues. If it is financial, it will be electrical, digital. That's very much Aquarius. Internet, social media. So I would see some perhaps hacks, technology, snafus, things going on with the internet and social media for sure around this day. Either that or there is a big buzz about something, and there could be issues regarding laws being discussed or laws being passed that would restrict the internet providers, and watch what you hear around this time, because the Sun and Mercury, as you'll see, I'll point out when that's going to be, but they are coming together. They will come together and they will make a sextile to Saturn. Saturn is restrictions and boundaries, and we could see being discussed governments around the world looking to put measures in place that would restrict anything technological and digital. So whether we're talking about AI or cryptocurrency or social media or the internet and the internet providers, not just the platforms for social media, but providers for internet service. Those will all be things that will be coming up around this time. All right, so the 16th, that's Saturday, so we get to Sunday, the 17th. That is the 9th day, 3, 6, and 9. So the cycle, the 1 to 9 cycle that we keep track of, the 11th being the 3, 14th being the 6, and then the 17th being the 9. That is the culmination. And what do we have on this day? We have the moon starting out in Aquarius. After having made a square to Uranus, moon square Uranus it's like a jolt, a push, like a jolt of electricity, a zap, a taser, on an emotional level, because it is the moon, it's the collective consciousness. It is the push towards the future, where we're going, technology, all those things that I just mentioned before. And the sun is still squaring Neptune, so it is revealing something perhaps that was hidden, and it can create a lot of confusion. The moon will sextile the sun, so perhaps we do get some clarity regarding the situation, but then the moon goes into Pisces and conjuncts Saturn. So, I mean, that's a very sobering mood right there. So we're preparing for some kind of restriction, lack, scaling back, boundaries, limitations, obstacles, delays. What is going on here? Now, Saturn is in Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Neptune is being squared by the sun. The sun is trying to bring us some kind of illumination. And where it is right now in Sagittarius, 25 to 26 degrees of Sagittarius, this is called galactic center. So, will there be something about the sun, or maybe regarding the emanations of energy waves, energy particles that come from the sun or that come from galactic center? Because where we're at right now, our solar system, within the galaxy, within the cosmos somehow, I don't know, I'm not an astronomy person, but apparently our solar system is lined up in such a way that we are receiving more and more and more of the galactic center emanations, the energy that comes from the galactic center. So, which is thought to be where our universe came from, like originated. So, if anything, we are getting this sort of infusion of light particles. So this is really part of the awakening process or ascension that a lot of people talk about. And of course, you know, enlightenment doesn't happen overnight, but enlightenment, think of it as the light gets turned on. What the first thing that you're going to see is the cockroaches scurrying and all the crap that you couldn't see. when it was dark. So there is illumination happening, and maybe some big surprises and unveilings and revelations, right? So there could also be the potential um, for deception. So there is deception being exposed, and there is also the potential for people to be lied to be duped. So it'll be an interesting time for sure. Now, the Saturn moon is very serious, kind of sobering, and there will be some sort of a slowdown. So see what is coming up. What do you hear? What are you experiencing? What area of life is slowing down for you? What kind of obstacles are you encountering? And what's coming out in the news? You know, oh, there, we are experiencing a lot of changes. Our world is changing, our society is changing, our financial system is changing. Now, there's a lot going on in the financial arena that is global in scale. So the average person may not be aware of it. It is something that is going to trickle down, but perhaps there is a scramble now with local governments because there are economic issues that we are facing, even with the infrastructure of the banks, which it is digital. And yeah, there's talk about digital currency, but everything is digital. What do you think happens when you use your debit card or credit card? But that's the infrastructure part of it that I think we're having difficulty with right now. So they will probably just blame it on software glitches, but I think maybe there's compliancy issues because those things were coming up during the early fall when we had transits through Virgo and we had the Mercury retrograde through Virgo. There were issues that came up with banks and direct deposit, things that happen digitally, electronically. Now we have Mars and the Sun in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius squares Virgo. And Virgo also relates to rules and regulations and structures of procedural issues, right? So that's where I'm thinking that the banks are probably having some issues. I'm really not of the opinion that banks are going to close and people are going to lose their money. I don't really see that happening right now. As we switch over to new, regulations and procedures when it comes to the banks, probably see some bumps in the road, but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be, theft through hacking, things like that. So while I don't expect things to just crumble and I don't expect, I don't really, I think that there will be banks that could fail, but what happens? A bank is a business. Another bank comes along and buys up the pennies on the dollar. So I don't know. I'm just not seeing like, not that there wouldn't be bank runs, but what does that mean? Like, not every single bank. There may be a lot of people going, panicking and trying to take their money out. And then the bank says, no, we're not going to do that because that's going to cause a problem where maybe the problems are just temporary because they're, whatever, their technology isn't working. So, whatever, I really don't think it's going to be so huge, but with the Mercury retrograde, that's the kind of thing that come up, where you're traveling and maybe you need to use your ATM or credit card and it's not working. Um, so I mean, worst case scenario, I don't keep cash. Keep your tank full. I think we have like long-term PSD panic, some of us, because we keep hearing about these terrible catastrophic things that could happen. And we think that society is going to come to a screeching halt. That's where the brain goes, but that's not the worst thing that can happen, because then we start to think of how we can prepare for those things, worst case scenario. And so, how does the saying go? Prepare, plan for the worst and prepare for, no, not, never mind, I can't remember. But anyway, plan for the worst case scenario. And then if it doesn't turn out that way, then you're ahead of the game. But I do think that this Mercury retrograde, we're going to want to be really careful about travel. Like, weather issues could be a thing. But that's pretty much it for the week, right? 17th is, did I get to Sunday? Did I make it that far? Yeah, Sunday. All right, so that is good enough for this week. And I hope you liked my screen sharing, like being able to see the chart. And definitely leave your feedback in the comments on the video. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications and all those things. I really appreciate your support. I really need to I need to be a little bit better about sharing these things on social media so people know what I'm up to. But anyway, you know where you can find me: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Astrology, Rumble. Go subscribe to the channel. Substack. I have my newsletter. You can subscribe to that also. Just look for Astrology if you're interested in booking a reading. And I am offering discounts at this time for the holidays. I think we'll do it all the way through the new year. So makes a great gift idea for yourself or for someone else. So if you're interested in that, you can email me at astrologychick@gmail.com. If I don't respond to you right away, it's Mercury retrograde. Ping me again. And you can also reach me, on my Astrology Chick hotline, 914-222-1231. You can call, leave a message, or you can even text me and let me know what you're looking for in terms of readings. I tailor them to what people are needing, looking for. I mean, if it's just maybe you want a birth chart reading, you've never had a basic reading, you can do that. If you want to just look at what the transits are right now, do that. If you want me to pick a date for you to, I don't go get Botox, we could do that, but definitely wait until January. December, not a great month for that kind of thing. But then again, just do it. If you want to do it, so just do it. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And please comment, leave feedback, and let me know what you think. If you've got questions, you might have answers. So, with that said, I'm going to stop this screen sharing. Hope you all have a good week. I expect me to pop up because I'm getting back into my groove now that we've got the new moon here and getting into Capricorn season. So, I got to get my hustle on. Alrighty. So, yeah. See you guys soon. Ciao for now.